Test, test. Oh yeah, we lit. Check baby y'all, check baby y'all. 1, 2, check baby y'all. How y'all feeling, man? If it ain't messy, it ain't me. We in the building. I know y'all can't see me because y'all love y'all man so much. You dig, you dig, you dig. I got my special guest host coming in momentarily. My underboss coming in. A topic that you know, is talk worthy, man. Protecting your interests, and in this case, um, the interest is our children, and our children are our future. So, you know, we've oh, I'm going no headphones today too, y'all. We going no rubber, balls out, all raw, all messy. You feel me? Um, I got you, boo. My boo said I'm live with no picture. I knew I had to go ahead and get it right. Um, Thank you, love. My children are our future. It kind of feels weird recording with no headphones on, but it's a very trusting situation. At the beginning of the day. Um, how do we protect our future in today's day and age? You know, with so many things going on in the world. Um, with laws, policies, and regulations governing us as a people. Um, how do we effectively do that without stepping on people's toes, religious beliefs, so forth and so on? It's kind of hard, to be honest with you. Shout out to my man Pap Smear for that drinky drink, aka country water. Yeah, it's hard to accomplish that goal, trying to protect your kids. When you're trying to protect them from different entities of this world, um, you're trying to protect them from the world, and you're trying to protect them from our past, essentially, which is, you know, the things that we've endured going through the ranks that, you know, built our character, that's built our, you know, who we are, who the people have grown to know, um, to a certain degree while we're evolving through life. But, you know, how do we protect them from some of the innate wrong things that's built into us, that's passed down to us? I think some of us, you know, we call it generational curses and things like that. We have a lot against us. You know, the best thing we have for us is God. First and foremost, that's the best thing we have for us as parents, as people. But we have so many earthly things against us that make it hard or very challenging to raise our kids. Um, just the other day, on the school bus, we had to decipher, you know, with one of our kids. He depicted that he was initially spit on or spat on. I think my co-host is in to come on in. Got your other cup ready, and your other cup ready. It's okay, we can do this because, you know, I'm the owner. There she go. See, I got the hookah. So every time you come on, I'm going to have a little special extra something for you so you can go ahead and get your Genesee 2 on.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, this is gonna be different. This is my first time using a microphone and no headphones, which feels kind of awkward to me that I can't hear myself. But I've tested the levels prior to.
Okay.
Um, but our son got off the bus and we're checking book bags and things, and he was trying to interpret to us that he got spit on, which ended up being spat upon, by his definition. And instantly I flew off the handle. It's that's just one of those things. Everybody got their pet peeves. I don't do the spitting upon unless we getting messy in the room. Other than that, ain't nobody spitting on nobody. But I was at a heightened sense. We were at a heightened sense of awareness and alert. When hearing such news, more especially in the environment that we live in the neighborhood we live in. Now that's a two-edged sword, double-edged sword, because we do live in an almost rural suburban area, but at the same time there's some demographics and things that will have the potential to cause friction on how other people raise their children. Case in point, we're the minorities.
Right. It's definitely a rural area. It's nothing suburban about where we live. It's rural, and we are a minority here. Check the demographics before we even moved here, so that was a known factor. I'm not a stranger to it. I grew up in definitely suburban areas and a very rural area where I was the minority many times. But it does bring about an awareness about how you deal with certain situations. We would like to walk out here. It's important. We love everybody. We teach our kids to love everybody. We have respect for everyone.
Absolutely.
But that is not
Big
always
butts.
given to us.
Semicolon, long
there's
pause.
a level of awareness that is never too early to teach your children that they should have when certain things happen, like being spit at on a school bus.
Right. Before we continue, something has caught my eye. I see you got your new shiny situation up and running. You got the new iPhone running?
Yes.
Oh, I see it. It's blinking and it caught me in my eye. It looks nice. I get distracted easily. I got low-key attention deficit disorders. So yeah, he said he was spit on. And so we're picking away, and then it's not only him on the bus. He got, a twin brother and sister that ride the bus with him. So, everybody getting a little bit of what they call interrogation energy. What happened? What's going on? Like, who spit on what? Why is everybody still calm? Who is he still breathing? Like, what's going on? Yeah, because that's one of the lowest of the lowest signs of disrespect. For me personally, that most of my male guys, it's two things. It's being open palm slapped in the face and goddamn spit upon. Like, if you get slapped, you rather get punched in the face than a man slap you in the face. It's very disrespectful. But to be spat upon like that is very unsavory. And so basically, say all that, we went down the pipeline of how do we prepare, how do we protect? More so, it wasn't the preparation part, because as parents, we felt like the type of parents that we are, we prepare our kids on the daily basis. Hey, look after your brother, look after your sister. Hey, make sure everybody's good. Everybody goes in together, everybody leaves together. Case of rod. They all at the same school right now. If you see your brother in the hallway struggling, need help. If you hear him down the hallway need help, everybody gets a pass from mom and dad. Mm-hmm. Make sure we all good. We go to school together, everybody comes home safely together. But again, all that shit was out the window. All methods of calmness and cool and collectiveness and 40-something and 30-something and being through life and thinking we got it all figured out went out the window. So how do you protect your kids? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure you'll agree. You might not want to on camera, but I wanted to go on the school bus and address some people. I don't care how old, how young. I'll start with the school bus driver. You know what I'm saying?
So that's the first line of defense when it comes to me. I am the calmer parent. I like to get the rationale behind things. So I have to ask more questions to get further details, because I also understand that they're young children. So a lot of times the story doesn't always come out, or is not always perceived as it is. Also, knowing your children is very, very important because
it helps. Confusing, but it helps.
It helps, like a lot, because if you know your child, and this is a topic that not everybody is ready to discuss, but if you know your child is a liar, and they tend to fabricate stories very easily, then you know that you need to ask more questions to really understand exactly what's going on in that particular situation, because you can't always jump to the conclusions when the child is telling you one story and you know that they can embellish. So for me, because he is the younger of the siblings, I did definitely direct questions towards the older ones, because he sits right next to his brother and his brother sits on the outside. So the location of where the child was sitting that did this to him, I'm like, well, your brother surely couldn't have missed it.
Sitting right next to him. We both from Philly now.
It was a learning experience.
We transitioned to the suburban world, but we have a similar background when it comes to, how we should handle things and address things.
Right. So it was a learning experience going through the situation and knowing what questions to ask, because what I learned, and I don't know if you can agree or not, but what I learned about my children is no matter how much preparation we give to them about how to deal with people, or when they feel like they're being pushed in a corner or treated indifferently, they have a severe amount of timidness when it comes to addressing situations. They don't like confrontation, and I'm aware of that. But at the same time, it straddles the line of you don't even want to defend yourself.
Facts.
A lot of times I've heard them say, well, I don't want anybody to get in trouble, and I don't want you to be mad, or I didn't want, them to be mad. And they're more concerned about everyone else's feelings and would pretty much allow themselves to get beat up on, spit on, or talk to any kind of way because they don't want someone else to get in trouble. Love a pure heart, but it's a hard knock life. And so with that, I do definitely have to have extensive conversations with them. Like, I appreciate that you have a good heart, but
absolutely,
you really have to protect yourself because it's a cold world and it's only going to get worse as you get older. And you need to know the signs that you need to look for when you're in those situations. And it's concerning for me.
That's the problem.
Outside of my presence.
How do you teach love, protection, and something knowing when to turn on the instilling fear, not in the kids, but in the other person,
right?
The op, because in a perfect world, Nam Ya Renge Kyo, Yin Yang, perfect balance, peace and harmony, and you want to teach that, and we want to promote that to the utmost. But the reality is that's not what it is, and the reality is, case in point of this topic, how do you protect? Because all parents don't teach the same.
Absolutely.
Everybody's morals and values are I don't want to say skewed, but there's big differences. And then we know, as big kids, I always say we big kids raising little kids, we know that we try to replicate some things we see at home, or sometimes even act out the things we wanted to act out at home but didn't have the balls to do it at home. And the first kid we see that we think is a lesser of us or a weaker of us, we're going to try it. You know what I mean? That's human nature. That's the truth about that mindset and those actions is human nature. So what do you teach your kids on how to resolve a spitting situation? Now, in this space, again, I started with the baby boy. It was his depiction or his perspective in this particular situation. Thank God, because the end result was the boy was
blowing raspberries at him.
So if you don't know what raspberry, that's when they. That's the. It's messy. That's a raspberry. So he's sitting where he was sitting on the inside. His big brother was sitting on the outside. So big brother, once he chimed in, informed us that he's
he did speak up for him. He said
spoke up for his brother.
Don't treat my brother like that.
Right.
And I said, well, did the boy continue after you addressed him? And he said no. So there was resolve for me after that point because he stepped in as big brother, did what he needed to do, and it didn't happen again.
Right. So that was a good situation. But the lesson for us both was, dang, no one really knew how to react, or the one afflicted to didn't know how to understand and interpret what was going on, and then not to react. Because I'm glad it was a peaceful result, and I mean that to the depths of my heart. But initially, if you feel you spat upon, I'm going to the max. You know what I mean? Another situation. As far as how do we protect our kids? I'll say I'll start with I'll say spiritually. You know, I like to touch all, mind, body, and soul. We have different I can't really say religious sects, because they didn't took that whole conversation out of school as far as religion and things like that.
That comes with the separation of church and state. So the religion, conversation is not even really had anymore.
Well, we can speak on that. So we can speak on that.
Which is,
it's a problem.
It is. It's a problem because, there are many different religions, way of lives. People have different cultural practices, and to have that separation and children raised a certain type of way, and then they have to congregate amongst other children, that is a free-for-all. Right. And they do certain things. Our children are going out the door every day if you allow them to go to public schools, being exposed to a lot of things that we may not condone.
Right.
The last year that they went to the school in this county that we live in, they said that they play music at recess. And I said, well, who plays music? And they said, oh, well, the recess helpers play music. And I said, oh, okay. Because they would come home singing songs. And I'm like, is that song fresh in your head? Like, where'd you hear that song? Because it wasn't a song that I listened to recently. So I'm wondering where they got the song from. And they said it was played at recess.
Right.
So the first thing that I thought of is, okay, well, are we playing radio edited versions of the songs? I surely hope so. So one of the older children definitely confirmed that it wasn't any bad words in the songs. And I said, well, who chooses the music?
Right.
And
which
she
is
said,
funny.
Whoever is playing the music on their device. So, again, that was interesting to me because it's just like,
we can play,
what do we consider safe music for everybody to hear? Because even when it's radio edited or it's the clean or nice version, the context
the undertone
of any song.
Right.
And I won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but I will speak on the fact that my children love a song by Lil Nas X that I know explicitly is about homosexuality and different stuff. And not even just that. The Love Me song or something. I don't even know the name of the song, but I told them they can't listen to it anymore. But basically, it's talking about, a same-sex relationship.
Yeah, so
I'm not judging anybody. Okay.
So, again, back to the school part. Again, schools, yes, it's our particular school, but we know various schools do it. It's cool to lighten up the mood and throw generalized music, but we can't talk about a generalized God. Now, we're not talking about religion, but we can't talk about a generalized God to the point to where, again, protecting your kids, because we believe in God. We tell our kids, speak God's name out loud. We tell our kids, don't be ashamed of God. Pray over your food over and over and over and over again. But for some odd reason, they can't do that. But that's part of our protection for our kids. Is a spiritual reinforcement. But they're not able to practice those things. Say a prayer on the bus, or say if we go on a drive somewhere, we pray for traveling mercies on the road. They're not able to do that out loud at school because they're taught in the policies and procedures. We on the cybersecurity, their standards and policies and procedures. You can pray quietly.
Which was a conversation we had their first year, because one of the twins came home and said he didn't pray over his food. He said, I did. I said it in my head. So there was a debate about how you're supposed to pray over your food, because we pray out loud at home over our food.
And sometimes if we miss the joint prayer, we tell them to pray, in their head, but then they took it to a whole different level.
So she said, he didn't pray over his food, and he said, I did in my head. And being in a school setting, I don't want my children to be subjected to being scrutinized about certain things. But at the same time, I won't ever teach my children to be ashamed of their God. Like, those are principles and a foundation that we rest everything on, and that's how we build our family. So at no point do I want any of them to feel like they should be ashamed to say a prayer, if they feel unsafe or in a situation or over their food. Those are things that you need to do. But I think it's a little bit hard for the younger children being faced with criticisms when they're doing something like that, and their friends sitting across the table from them, they're like, well, what are you doing? And why are you doing that for? And sometimes Inquisition, they can lead somebody else to God if they know how to have the right conversations. And so we also have those conversations.
Thanks for chiming in, Get More. Thanks for chiming in, Kamala.
But
I would like to touch a point because
it's a hard, sticky situation just to be able to really lead them in the right direction and address all the issues that they have, because you want to create or mold a child to be this strong, independent individual that knows how to stand up for themselves, that knows how to morally do the right things and be a good citizen and a good servant, and be able to give back to the community. But at the same time, there's so many things that you'll be faced with along that journey of doing those things. And even as adults, we struggle with that. So for a child, what is the border of being a cautiously parenting and being overprotective and overbearing in your parenting? Because there's no manual to tell us to do it right or wrong. But what is it? Like, the conversation definitely should be had amongst people, because I'll look at some people and I'll say, oh, well, you're hindering that child, like you're super overprotective. And they'll look at me and say, you don't do certain things and you're pretty overprotective yourself. While in my head, I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm just being cautious so they're not subjected to certain things.
Right. So that's why I want to interject right when we take this quick sponsor break about being cautious and not wanting your kids to be subjected to certain things, because that's really the problem. Oh, I don't want my kid to go through this. I want them to live their truth and speak their truth, but I don't want them to be embarrassed, because that's really the dialogue. If we touch briefly on the ABC, LTH, you know what I mean? That's kind of why they decided to take away, God's religion and all this stuff, because other sects and groups get to come in and I don't want to say roam for that. I don't want to say it like that. Be open and free who they are, because they didn't, they don't want their child to be subject to people bashing on them because they want to express themselves a certain way.
Which is fine. Don't get it misconstrued. That is your self-expression, and I'm okay with that.
Facts.
But at the same
time, they can have that liberty of self-expression and be protected with that liberty of self-expression.
Absolutely. Protection is key. But also at the same time, I don't want to be forced to sway in my beliefs to uphold yours.
Pause.
And so,
for another brief break, this is brought to you by King Pope Kennels. King Pope Kennels, they produce badass American bullies, and they also fabricate custom stacking boxes and whelping boxes for you guys. They make it personal, easy, quick, and efficient to use and adjust. It doesn't pull out. You adjust the fly nuts on the side and slide it back. Stack your dog up. You know the law, stack up or shut up, man. Appreciate you guys. Continue watching the show, and always remember, if it ain't messy, it ain't me. And we are back, y'all. That was King Pope Kennels. Me and my brethren are throwing a meet and greet September 24th. As you can see on the screen, uno momento por favor. Got a fun show, a meet and greet September 24th down in Brunswick, Virginia. Be there, be square. We're going to have some of the baddest dogs in the DMV area. My dog's going to be there, so those are the baddest dogs. In the DMV area, we're going to have water ice, horses, bouncy houses, and more importantly, a good, safe time for kids and family to come out and just hang out. New people to be introduced to the American Bully community. And just, again, have some good old fun, good old-fashioned country fun. And let our hair hang out. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned on our Facebook channel or YouTube, but stay tuned on Instagram, Mr. It's Messy, or Facebook, Gemma Worthy. And check us out for details, man. There's more to come. And also our next sponsor, as you know, Get More Graphics. They will be providing all the banners and things, as you can see in the background. Get More Graphics provides the banners. There's banners and stuff all over our location currently right now, man. So y'all make sure y'all go ahead and check out Get More Graphics on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll give you the spelling in a minute. GITMORGRAPHIX. Yes, I got it right. Yeah. So, without further ado, about the protection, you said it's okay. It's okay. You don't mind kids being protected and be able to express themselves. You said, but
I don't want it to lean against me not being able to express myself or having my own beliefs, or my children being able to do so in a safe space as well.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I got it. I misspell it every time. GITMORGRAPHIXS. I forgot the S. Get more graphics. Go ahead, baby.
Good job on the recoup.
Thanks.
So yeah, it's very important that we keep an open mind and remember to be respectful to, people and their beliefs, and not be overbearing and trying to push certain things on other people, because like Gemma has expressed earlier, everyone is raised in a different setting. We learn differently. We are in different environments. And I want my children to have grace, because we don't know where everybody else is coming from. We don't know the circumstances that children are coming from when they come to school. I try to give children, the benefit of the doubt, but not too much to the point where my child is going to be hurt by it. I know that there are certain environments and circumstances that people come from. I've seen it around when I lived in Philadelphia with other children that I used to play with, and they would always gravitate, to my house and hang out at my house. So I'm not a stranger to any of that, and I'm very open-minded when it comes to that. But, my children, from the time they can talk and express themselves, will always learn. Protect yourself, protect your siblings. Facts. Stand your ground. Facts. Be a leader. Facts. Be independent. Facts. And know how to be self-sufficient.
Facts.
Because on top of all that, I don't want no child walking out here like, I'm a leader and I'm proud and I'm doing this, that, and the third, and you can't help yourself.
Loud and wrong.
Because that's a recipe for disaster as well. It's just like, well, son, daughter, you still got to ask a lot of people to do this, that, and the third for you. And you just out here just being super loud and like you just got it all together. So it's a balance that you definitely have to teach with your children. And I know I don't have it perfect. And I know the children probably go outside the home and present very differently than what they do at home as well.
Ain't no probably.
Well, they do. But in their defense, from the schools and everywhere else, all of the reports that I've gotten are that, our children are super well behaved and, they're no problem. They're respectful. They're caring. And, they do all those things. So I've never had a complaint that I've necessarily had to address as far as how they behave outside the home.
In that space, yeah. But I'm talking about the interaction with people, the public anyway, because the school bus ranges in age gaps and personalities. Right. And so I'll segue to a little bit to this weekend, a little bit with this point. Now, what my wife was saying, it's a thin line between being cautious and overcautious, protective and overprotective, because these scenarios that we named or spoke on or speaking on, it's the yin and yang, the balance of life. It's also needed to find out, to forge the fire, to purify you, to see what you can take and what's really going on up in here with that particular child. Right. When you're faced with adversities, and things like that, it's needed. And to the point, I like to use the word pain. Our common denominator in life is pain. So sometimes you have to feel, I don't want to say the spit word. Sometimes you have to feel embarrassment. Sometimes you have to feel somebody, talking down to you a little bit, to go ahead and see what's in you and dig out and see if you can speak up for your brother or speak up for yourself. Or if somebody hits you, hit them back, and depending on the level of confrontation you're dealing with, sometimes you don't have a chance to run for help. And so that goes to the overprotection part, because some people want to be so cautious and teach their kids in every scenario, all praise be to God, peace and blessings be with you. That sounds great, but there's no peace and blessings if you hit me or my siblings. There's no peace and blessings when we were little and we ride on the bus with my cousins and somebody ran a foul, because, our schooling, you come home bruised up. If the other person is not bruised up right then when they happen to see them, this the parents, or people, our guardians, whoever the older person is watching us at the time, and then within the next 24 hours, we need to see some results. We need to see that this kid is walking with a limp too. We need to see that this kid's buttons on his shirt is a little bit fucked up too the next day. Or then that's when the parents get happy to relive their childhood dreams and go start talking to the kid and their parents and say, well, we need to go ahead and handle this how we need to handle this, because I need to show my kid how we not going to be handled in certain situations. You know, and again, I'm going to say this probably, that too, when it's needed, is needed. Sometimes the parents got to step up out and let the monster out to show their kids like, hey, it's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to protect your family. It's okay to protect your family's namesake. But this society, in my strong opinion, wants to make us so goddamn docile and wants to make us so pussified. We can't pray. We can't, if you off too much, you need a damn prescription. You know, nobody knows what's going on at home. You can't articulate yourself. And people start boxing you and labeling you and taking away your rights and stuff as a person to not be able to express yourself. And they say you're a disciplinary problem. And this kid has anger issues when there's things going on. So there's a common respect and courtesy for people, but at the same time, there's definitely a level of alertness. You don't want to be overprotective and be too alert. But just in case in point, this weekend, there's a little mayhem going on all over the place this weekend. We had our son's birthday party. Great turnout, a lot of energy. But there were some things that went on that people have different perspectives of, you know, how things should have been handled. And it's all based on how people raise their kids and certain things that are done, what certain people think is okay and what other people, parents, or, you know what I'm saying, more so, say is not so okay. But the kids need to know, again, how to discern what's okay, what's good treatment, what's bad treatment, what's playing and what's going, you know, over the line with certain mannerisms and things of that nature. But how do you protect your kids? How do you protect your kids in a situation? Again, we talked about potential spitting. I want to talk about potential sexual trauma. You know, in this day and age, there's so much going on from the military on down to kids, man. Sexual assaults, you name it. Drugging, statutory rape. That's still too, because you're mentally manipulating. That's why that law is enacted. I don't care if some of y'all, I know some of y'all born in 1854, or, you know, it's okay to, you know, do what you need to do at 13 years old, but we don't live in the times no more. So I'm gonna speak in 2022 time frame, but the level of things our kids are exposed to, which goes back to the protection and overprotection, like, I know most parents, I wish I could walk around my kids 24 hours a day and still earn income and just protect them and be their eyes, ears, and mouth.
And I've been told that I'm an overprotective parent for that reason. But, you know, my kids don't do sleepovers.
Case in point.
Unless I'm there. And if we're doing a play date and my girlfriends are bringing their kids and I'm bringing my kids, I'm all for it. But my kids don't stay at anyone's house alone, unsupervised. I don't know how other people parent. I don't care how close I am to you. I don't care if we grew up together. It's probably two people that I can think of in my Rolodex that I would even allow my children to stay over their house and feel absolutely and completely comfortable outside of family.
Facts.
And even with family, there's only a couple of people that have access to do that as well. I don't do sleepovers.
I'm messy. I'm diving in. It's because again,
I was about to get into it.
It's from the world as we know it, statistically what's going on outside the world, and from what we know, our own past experience of what has happened to us, unfortunately, in our own personal lives.
Absolutely.
And whether that was external people or some, unfortunately, with our own family members, people don't like to talk about it, about to get messy. Unfortunately, most of us, and I like to stick to our culture because, you know, it's all about me right now. And the black culture, man, there's a lot, it's no excuse. There's a lot of trauma passed on from generation to generation, but unfortunately, some of our first traumatizing situations come from the people closest to you. Just like when there's a murder or something, they say most of the time It's the person that was closest to you. Same thing when it comes to sexual trauma. It's the people closest to you that go ahead and violate you in some kind of way.
Because that's how they earn the trust the best. They work on that. They manipulate you in that space to get you to trust them and get you to feel comfortable. And it doesn't take much when you're close to someone.
Right.
And for me, I'm just like, there's no age range for me. It doesn't matter that you're an adult. It doesn't matter that you're a child. There's children exposed to so much stuff now. I watch my kids around other kids. Everybody, my eye is on everyone. I have to pay attention to everything that's going on. What type of conversations are you having? What are you talking about? What pictures are you looking at? You know, my daughter, we got these phones because of the world we live in, and I'm objective to it. I'm like, 13 is the age for you to have a phone. 13 is the age, and we went ahead and got it just in case they're, at activities or school or whatever, and they need to contact us, and they're downloading games, and my daughter's like, there's this disgusting ad that keeps coming on. And I'm like, well, what's on the ad?
Right.
And she's like, it's sexy stuff.
They're influencing the outside world. That's the outside world influencing and priming. Even if you're not violated, it's just priming your mind to accept that type of shit
everywhere, because the game is for everyone. I have every parent control known to man. They have to request permission to download games. I've done the screen time. I've done the shutoffs. I've done the parent controls. Like, I am like out of my mind with it. People look at me like, you crazy. Why are you doing all that? Because I want to really cut off a certain amount of exposure that they have to certain things. I know the world is going to show them what they're going to show them. So in home, this is where I can regulate. This is my fort where I can control certain things. And so I do the best that I can in this space. And, she's like, oh, well, the ad keeps coming up on a game that's for everyone. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, the only solution I have for that, since I can't block ads, you have to delete the game. And so she's upset about it, and the rest of the kids are upset. And I'm like, who else has the game on their phone? Mm-hmm. And so I'm asking questions now, because how long have y'all been watching this particular ad before you decided to sit around me and let me know that that's what's happening?
There lies a thicker problem, which she just said. How long has XYZ been going on before you decided to alarm and alert your parent or guardian? There lies the problem between, again, traumas and things of that nature. When your kid has been violated, if not, hopefully, or been not violated or been exposed to certain uncouth situations in life, how do you protect them from that? I started with my intro about past traumas and things of that nature, about protecting people from the outside world and sometimes from our own selves, because we try to give our best side and our best experiences to our kids, but just through our daily stresses and work, those kids come in, you're tired, just as being a human being, forget being a mom or dad, you're another human being raising other human beings. But when them noises come in, we love our kids and we'll die for our kids. But when them noises come in and different things, like, it's never just, for the most part, hey, calm down, let's get together. But sometimes that, that old school switch by, hey, whooping, you find yourself saying some things you done heard your mom say, or your dad said, or your aunt said, and just, sparking off in response. And you do it in such a repetitive way, unknowing repetitive way, that again, them kids start to pick those things up. And if, depending on how you got them trained, they either going to say something to you in front of your face and act out at home, or they're going to save that bad boy for the bus ride or at school, or when you have a family get together, or where they go sleep over somebody's house, and they're going to, hit, yell, cuss, or touch, or whatever it is fucked up that they might got in their mind to express themselves. How do we protect our kids from that? How do we safeguard? I called my wife the other day. I heard something on the radio where a single father, his daughter, she just turned 12, and it's simple. I'm gonna tone it down. He was like, she decided she wanted to start. She liked this guy. She told me like she liked this guy, and she wanted to start dating. And he had a meltdown. Now, I'm not a single father, but I'm still out. I called her instantly, like, babe, like, what I'm saying? Like, oh, this, what I mean? They talking this talk right now. And she hit me with the question mark, like, and what? Like, what about it? So I was kind of taken back, but she did the great thing. She called me,
Because I already knew his wheels were spinning at the fact that I was questioning his stance. I knew what his stance was when he told me, what he heard on the radio.
What about stance?
Your stance was you were totally objective to it. She's too young to date. And what kind of conversation is that? Oh, my 12-year-old daughter would never be with somebody. That was your stance, wasn't that?
I mean, it was a high percentile.
That was your stance, was it not?
I said it was a high percentile. But semicolon long pause. That's my new thing. Semicolon long pause. Look it up. It's grammar. I understand the reality of it. Now, what she said as far as my, high percentage response, initial response, yeah, I'll be on 10. Like, again, as far as my truths, when you've been around sexual trauma, when you've been around, I don't give a damn how sweet the world is and how good the environment. I think of the worst. It's messy. I think of the worst, unfortunately. And all I could think about is any of my daughters, like, you know what I mean? Oh, my God. Like,
well, praise God for balance of the underboss.
Oh, my God. You know what I mean? Like, I just...
Because that would be a great overprotective situation of you want to shelter your kids so much that everything you shelter them from, they run to because they're like, oh, finally free. I'm finally in college. I finally don't have eyes on me. I finally am not dealing with this, that, and the third. It's like I'm going wild out, live free, and do all the unimaginable things that I never even thought of before. But now, since I'm free, I'm going to do it. And so my approach is a little bit different when it comes to that. I'm a cautious parent. Again, I'm not overprotective. When he told me about the situation, if my 12-year-old daughter came to me and said, oh, I'm ready to date. Okay, sweetie, what's dating?
I told her already when we first started kicking it. I know I've been saying this as a joke, but serious at the same time for many, many years. I said, "Oh no. The internet gonna be their best motherfucking friend." That's gonna.
But even with the internet, I
know it. So we're gonna have the monitoring, and we're gonna have bars on the goddamn windows and all kinds of shit. And you're not leaving this motherfucker till you 18, 21, whatever it is. So half of my conscience could be clear. But part of the problem, and I'll say for most of us, well, more especially for me and my thought process, and not too bad, but as far as, you know what I mean, just growing up, like karma is a bitch. So, if I think, and you know what I'm saying, you might have handled a girl wrong or guys before you, when you're young, before you know what I mean, the shit, oh, I hit you because I liked you type shit, or you know what I mean, you don't want your kid to go through that phase of some, you know what I mean, some young 10, 11, 12-year-old, you know what I mean, Dad, I like such and such, and she crying the next day, like, oh, he said, you know what I mean, or send me a note, said some old.
Teaching comes in because we already know those are the inevitables. We already know there's a culture of people.
I don't like it.
That have taught their sons that, oh, yeah, if you like a girl, that's just normal behavior if you're hitting her and this, that, and the third. No, we are promoting domestic violence.
Like a motherfucker, man.
We will not be doing that in the Anderson household. No. So if one of your little boys are interested in Keziah, don't you teach him that it's okay to hit my daughter because we gonna have a problem.
That's why I told y'all in another series about that. I said you be careful how you raise your kids, because when you're in a community of people, a county or whatever, the odds of your kids, crossing each other's paths and dating and this, that, and the third, it's very high. So depending on how open and free and just whatever you allow your kids to do, my child gonna meet your child eventually. Right. So, there's a high level of accountability of that interaction, whether you want to admit that thing or not. You know what I mean? So if there's a scenario where, God forbid, a child is traumatized in some kind of way, or verbally or physically, what was I got violence in my head.
And you need to tone it all the way down. So to get back to the point about being a cautious parent versus an overprotective parent.
I don't give a damn about no parent committee, no student. I don't care about no jail. Facts. I don't care.
If the circumstances are that extreme, neither do I. I would definitely go to the extents of the earth to do what I need to do for my children. But
I'm talking about the note, goddamn it. My baby come home talking about somebody goddamn fucked over and didn't check the yes box or some shit and send a return to sender.
Are you talking about her third grade note that she wrote to a boy?
I say point them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell with the barrel in your mouth.
I can't. So, yes, my children all last year in the third grade were talking about who liked who and who was gonna marry who and later in life, and who was whose boyfriend and girlfriend. And so those things go back to the story of the 12-year-old telling her father, I'm ready to date.
Yes.
There need to be conversations around that about, first, what our children view as dating.
But you made a great point, because I was flying off the handle. Because I just did it again.
Right.
I lost my point. I got it now. I was like, in my head, my high percentage, I was like, nah, they need to go ahead and chill for a good minute. Like, why are we talking about dating? Why? Because, I'm soon as she was in second, third, whatever grade she was in, talking about some boy. I like, hey, you need to be focused on school. Hey, you need to be focused on
had
this.
a husband in
hey,
kindergarten.
You need to be focused on this, that, and third. I'm quick, like, hey, some old Chinese type shit. You know what I'm saying? But the positive side, she was like, which is a great point. She was like, nah, people have maturity, get mature at different levels. People go through puberty at different levels and things like that. So they want to start exploring the world more and more and more. So how do we protect that? Her suggestion was?
I say have the conversations first and foremost. If any of my children come to me and say that they're interested in somebody, for one thing, we're not doing titles. We don't call them boyfriends and girlfriends. Everybody is a friend. We do play dates. I want to know the parents.
Play dates.
I call them play dates.
That's what she said. Play. That was
because
her
that's what little baby. They play dates. They still play dates to me until they become an adult. They play dates. So the parents come. We meet at a mutual place. Movies. Go out to eat, to dinner, or whatever the case may be. We all hang together as friends. I personally, my perspective is, especially with the type of daughter that I have, she's very well rounded. She has a lot of brothers. She's interested in things that she's a girly girl sometimes, and sometimes she's interested in sports and, Fortnite, anime, and all that other stuff. So, some of her friends are boys. I'm not going to tell her that that's not okay, because maybe one day she's going to hit the stage of puberty and she's feeling something else going on. I'm going to make her feel like we all have to be around people for the rest of our life. This is how you deal with this situation. We do play dates. I meet parents. We get together. We go over each other's house. Me and the parents, me and the mom will do our thing or whatever, and they can do their thing. But nobody's going to be outside of our presence. Nobody's going to be trying to sneak off and do whatever it is that I guess they had in mind to do. That's why the initial conversation for me is, what do you feel like dating is? Because if in your head, my daughter may not feel like dating is some type of sexual hookup, or we kissing and we holding hands and we doing this, that, and the third. But she may be interested in somebody who feels like that's what dating is. If you my girlfriend, you got, what is that, Love and Basketball? He was like, oh, you my girl now, you got to hold my hand. No. So there are boundaries that have to be set in the beginning. And once I understand what it is that you feel like is dating, then you need to express that to anybody else that you feel like is dating.
Good segue. Hey guys, this break is brought to you by Get More Graphics. They take care of all our vinyl banners, stickers, car magnets. They do our embroidery, special occasions, birthdays, you name it. They got what you need, man. Just click the link below. I said click the link. That's that Doja. Check out the link below and go holler at them, man. They'll take good care of you. Continue watching the show, and just remember, if it ain't messy, it ain't me. So, that might be you saying that as far as the holding hands and things, that may be the other person's interpretation and influence on our daughter per se. And we were discussing on how do we educate her on what's right and what's wrong based on our values at home.
And I'm going to interject, because this really isn't just about my daughter. I'm just as overprotective for my sons. I was about to say, I'm just as protective about my sons as well. For one, just like I said about nobody going to be hitting on my daughter, nobody going to be hitting on my sons either. Like,
and our sons ain't going to be hitting on no female.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if I train my sons to be respectful and I hit you or talk to you a certain kind of way and honor you, or your child or whatever the case may be, then I expect that same mutual respect will be reciprocated. because it's not okay. It's just not okay. It's not okay for any age. And I know that some children come from an environment where they do see domestic violence at home. And just like Gemma was saying, you know, sometimes they bottle all that up and they take it out on the world. And of course, counseling and different things are out here to work through that. Excuse me. But I'm a strong encourager of some things you need to work out for yourself and kind of work on yourself before you can even be thinking about including anybody else in the mix.
That's what I'm talking about. See, so we don't even
and
play dates and none of that shit because right, they got some shit they need to work the F out. Go ahead, baby.
Because even at a young age, I mean, we have teenagers and young adults, like, you know, they're really trying to get into a relationship or really start something. And again, back to what I was saying, like, I'm not objective to that because there are other cultures that have, like, prearranged marriages. People get married young. I know some people who've known each other since elementary school, got married right out of high school, and they're still together, flourishing 15 years, have great marriages. So, you know, I'm not objective to that storyline playing out. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also know that those people's parents were very involved with each other. The families were involved with each other. There was a whole dynamic that went behind that to set that up, to make that a very conducive and flourishing situation that blossomed into something so much more. And so generationally, we have to look at our past traumas and how we can get past those and work on ourselves so that our children are not repeating certain behaviors that they see or may have heard about or lie innate. And because sometimes it's inevitable and it happens. So we need to address the issues as they arise.
So I agree. Because as the world turns, you got to address things on the fly. But I'm going to go back to the prearranged situation. Mm-hmm. That goes back to cultural standards. Now, I'm not going to say culture and the race, but, you know, look up the word culture. Definition of culture. And levels of discipline, you know, of how things should go and how we should operate. Now, I think to me, you know, they you know, shoot me in my foot. It's messy, you know, and our culture, you know, the point I'm about to say, we say is like white people stuff because they mainly teach open and free and this and that. So there lies the problem, I think, with the masses as far as not white people, but people, because if you have the open and free approach, there's no cultivation, just go and figure it out type situation. But if we're talking about a prearranged situation, it's almost like, I don't want to seem objective, but this is our stock.
So this
is how we raised in our stock.
And I understand.
And we want to pair you up. We're going to get to dog talk. It's messy. You want to pair your pedigree up with an equal pedigree. And this is what you want yours to marry or breed with and procreate with and have children, establish a foundation and a family legacy with. I mean, that's pretty much the point of the prearranged situation.
But you don't feel like there's modern day prearranged marriages going on?
You've told me about them.
I mean, so here is my scenario.
Legend has it, you know.
Here is my scenario of a modern day prearranged marriage.
And if y'all believe in, if any of y'all still believe in modern day prearranged marriages, we definitely need your feedback on that, because that's definitely a lost conversation. More especially, I'm going to say, from what I do know and see and hear in the American culture.
I feel like it exists in the American culture. So here's the scenario. I have a friend, you know, my friend has a husband, so there's a family, and we all have kids around the same age. We know what stock they come from. The kids have all grown up together. Most people will say, oh, you're like family. They're sister, brother, cousin, yada, yada, yada. I don't do that. If you're not my biological cousin, sister, brother, we don't do the play cousins and all that other stuff. So for me, you know, I have friends where they have other friends and the children are all around the same age. And I've seen it prior to, in my time, children grew up with their parents and their parents knew other parents and they were friends of children around the same age, and they ended up getting married because that's what they knew. They knew each other, and that's what they were around. You know what stock you come from when it happens. And I feel like in today's time, to say it's a prearranged marriage, you don't hear that. But that's a modern day prearranged marriage. Like,
but how far down the hole we gonna go though? Because that's still a little bit more. That's still almost a little more liberal. Prearranged means like, okay, like us and the other parents are so much in sync. Like we didn't actually had the conversation and actually intently hanging around more and more and then intently grooming them together. That's what a prearranged marriage is. Not just
I understand
hanging.
that's why I said modern day prearranged marriage.
Everything
it's
we
not
do.
intentional.
Hey, you want to go over Mr. Carl and Miss Tammy's and play with Bryson today? No, I was thinking about going such. Well, Mr. Tammy and Carl and Bryson are coming, so that's what everything you eat, sleep, and drink is to know that boy and for that boy to know that girl. So when it's time to go ahead,
but
that's
I've also
what it really
seen that
is.
too. I've seen people make comments, and I don't know how serious they were. They be like, "Oh yeah, cause little Carson over there is gonna marry Lele." Because look at them, they're so cute together. Like I've seen people make those comments, and it's not a far-fetched idea.
I've heard commentary before,
right.
but who
actually does it?
The extent of what I'm talking about as far as the definition, it's full grooming and full interaction.
And that's
from
why I said modern day.
6, 7, 8 on up.
You got to take the definition out of it. It's modern day prearranged marriage. It's not that.
Well, that's still just kind of liberal. Then that's still open.
It is. I just said
because that means you still open the goddamn Terry and Brad and such and such. A prearrangement is a prearrangement. It's a full business. It's a full business partnership situation. Again, we locked in this situation, and until we show some real devilish ass shit, our kids is gonna be the one, and we finna hang around each other so much, so that's gonna be the move.
But what's your objection about that?
Now the positive. I'm not saying. I'm just talking about what it is.
Right.
Now the positive of that, one of the biggest positives I feel is the communication to if. God forbid there is some kind of dismay or altercations within that household, that leaves a more of an open door of communication to resolve potential things between the families with the children and stuff like that.
Right. But the chances of it actually being successful too is the morals that both families stand on. So both of the children were raised in the same settings. In the household, so we stand on the same morals. Like those are commonalities that the families just have together. So it limits the chances of you getting that wild card. You don't know where they come from. You don't know what they talking about, what they're doing, or how they're thinking, because you've been around this child since yay high. You done watch this child flourish, male or female. You done watch them flourish, grow up, go through middle school, high school. Oh, they're going to college together, or they may go to separate colleges. This one's majoring in that one. It's like, oh, such and such and such finally engaged each other. The positive of that is that you know your lifestyle. If you want to take it back to the dog situation,
right?
You know exactly what you're getting,
right?
And so, I mean,
if you're committed to that pair,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right. So
that also goes to on my last podcast. I keep jumping around because if it ain't messy, it ain't me. Because when the downside of that, such a wild card. The downside of that shit is if you groom them in that culture from the whole situation, well, it all depends on the parents, because we're going to talk about sexual compatibility. I'm not going to get off subject.
We're not going to get off subject.
I'm just saying when you really talk about the full grooming, because we also see in those cultural things. So
yes, the downside of it is the fact that they may not be compatible in all areas of life, but they just grew up together.
Unless both parents are saying, hey, you green light your kids to go ahead and do whatever up to that, with the intent knowing rain, sleet, hell, snow, y'all gonna get married at 18. You can wait now, or 19, whatever the case may be when you finish college, you know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. But that also is a spin on grooming a breeding pair, a marital pair, as far as that type of level of protection on your family, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty of the subject matter.
Absolutely. There are more conversations that come with that. But again, I'm just saying to throw it out there, what's your take on, being friends with people and having children of the same age range? Sometimes so for me, I'm speaking about the instances where it kind of happens naturally. Like, I just feel like the kids get comfortable around each other. They've grown up together. But you have more control over that situation because, like I said, like you know what the other parents are teaching because you're teaching the same thing, because that's a level of commonality that you have. So it's easier to do those play dates that I talked about, and hang around each other, and really for the children to really get to know each other the way that they need to. And it's not a dating scenario. It's like, oh, we grew up together, we were cool. They were my best friend. They know intimate details about me. And then something flourishes when they become of age. So that was more what I was speaking about the natural course that may potentially take especially when you're a family of multiple kids and you have like a lot of kids and the other person has a lot of kids and y'all kids are just the same age range.
Facts. So again, we touched on the grooming prospect and we turned the negative light to positive because we were talking about, being mishandled with sexual trauma. We talked about being mishandled initially with young Sire when, he was blown raspberries, not spat upon as we initially thought. But there's those sectors of protecting, and we got to that part about that level of protecting your children, as far as controlling, potentially, having strict level of guidance on who their potential partner will be in the future to help lessen the odds of them being mentally or physically violated, both the male and the female, because again, that trauma, you want to know who you are and who your people, who your community is that you're directly dealing with, because once those things come out, again, how do you handle it? Well, not once, if and when something bad comes out, some people just, they're grown now, just let them figure it out themselves. They got to figure it out themselves. Again, it's a double-edged sword. I said some things need to happen in your life sometimes because those things build character, but we damn sure don't, want no physical abuse or sexual abuse be the thing, the catalyst of, this new level of character that our children have to potentially go through. Mm-hmm. If and when, say, even as a teen, it happens as teens, say, there was a domestic situation. What do you do? I talk with my partner plenty of times, and both our kids are the same age, and I do subliminally, I think about it often. I'm like, damn, I said, we hang around and this and that, and our kids, these particular, they're super smart, they're super athletic, they're super, you know what I mean? In a far-fetched world, I'm like, it'd be dope. But then, in my unfar-fetched world where I was talking about, again, past trauma and certain things, I've been through certain things, what I'm saying? And I could speak it in a teaching manner and things as far as my past trauma, been abused as a child, and unfortunately, some of my outbursts as an adult in my marital situations caused lack of control and had us in domestic situations that we were able to stand tall and walk through by the grace of God. With that being said, by and by, so there's a high potential of all the positives and the negatives. Kids having good credit, being at the best schools and this and that, and unfortunately from their parents, and the one I'm talking about, I know he's still watching, he know his child have outbursts just like he have outbursts, and our children shouldn't have outbursts. So what if them getting together, they happen to have one of those moments, meltdown, and somebody hits somebody? What do you do? What advice do you give your child? Do you say, hey, cut all ties, go the other way? Like my wife said, hey, some things you need to figure out for yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, that's definitely a non-negotiable. My child won't be figuring that out for themselves.
Right.
But I'm not going to be the overbearing mother either.
But we know, like I said, that our end result was by the grace of God, we were able to work through our situation.
Right.
But in today's society, truth be told, that there's, as much sexual influence, they got the,
I'm the parent that's going to address the parent. I'm not going to address the child. At that point, when it gets to that level, me and the parent needs to have conversations. But again, I'm a little bit different anyway. When my children get to the age of dating and they're talking about anybody in particular, me and the parent going to be besties like we need to be. Facts. And if we can't be,
to the best
that
of
might
our ability,
present a problem with them going forward with their relationship, because I just don't see that being a foreseeable
Yeah, because we're not the
thing.
1865 parents that say, I know the Bible says uncleave from, your home and go your way, but, I guess we kind of them soft parents to that degree. I don't foresee me.
I need to know.
You
I need
ain't
to know
going
what your
too
house
far
is
away.
like. I need to know what y'all are doing. How you raise them. I would love to have open dialogue.
And even how to handle those, like even beforehand, like
right.
God forbid, like how we gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like talk all the way. That's this again. This is a merger. This is our stock. This is our pedigree. So we need to talk about the disaster recovery and the whole 9 yards. If in case, how do we handle this? You know what I'm saying? We get the kids together. Do we start shooting each other as parents and shit? Because surface level shit. Me and my partner, like, we don't give a damn. And this my guy. We don't give a damn. We done talked and laughed about this shit. Like, man. And I told him about the scenario. He's like, nah. I said, nigga, you look at me crazy as hell. He was like, yeah, you damn right. That's his daughter. You know what I'm saying? But surface level, I know his daughter's father. You know what I'm saying? And he knows me and mine. You know what I mean? So there's those level of truths that are out there that could potentially happen and arise in those relationships. How do you protect your kids? How do you protect your kids from those situations? Before we answer this last little bit, we're going to get our last sponsor. This last break is brought to you by MeetTheDoobies.com. Go to www.meetthedoobies.com and check out and stay up on all the freshest gear. They got the fresh rolling papers, all natural, slow hemp burning, rolling trays, rolling papers, you name it. Also, go to our private group on Facebook, Meet the Doobies, and we'll keep you up to speed on all the greatest and latest flavors and crazes out there in this crazy world. Also, as well as Doobie Fest. The first annual Doobie Fest is coming up September 24th in Brunswick, Virginia. You guys check it out. We're going to be horses, family fun, food caterers. We're going to have a pop-up with vendors out there who have all kinds of situations hosted by Mike Wu. Myself and King Pope Kennels, we are hosting a meet and greet. MVP, Maryland, Virginia Family Bully Fest. So you guys come on out September 24th. Enjoy the rest of the show. And as always, if it ain't messy, it ain't me. Not you. Yeah, so this topic is going to be ongoing, because you're always going to be a parent until you die. The world, as time goes by, if you're a biblical spiritual person, it gets darker and darker as we go, and it makes it more challenging to find light and find hope. As I stated before, our biggest asset that we have is God. That's our biggest level of protection. And I challenge you, if you don't know God, in the name of God, I challenge you to get to know him. But what do you do? Again, the laws, everything says you need to act this way and you need to handle this way. And if you don't, you're a bad parent. You're a bad person. You're now immoral for teaching your kids. If somebody spits on you, smack them in their damn mouth. You're a bad parent if you say, hey, eye for an eye. If they spit on you, spit back on their ass and let them know what's up. You know what I mean? Because when certain things get to a certain height, you gotta certain things you gotta light the match too. They say fire versus fire don't help, but certain things, because if not, unfortunately, they gonna come back. They keep coming back. If you're in an abusive situation, a relationship, unfortunately, if you don't stand your ground or know when to walk away or know when to come back with a bigger whatever it is, that person's gonna keep feeling like they can go ahead and do it over and over and over.
It's about setting boundaries. Which is the biggest question about the topic. What boundaries are we going to set? Are we going to let society dictate continuously to us as it changes and evolves year after year? Are we going to keep allowing society to dictate to us how we are supposed to parent our offspring? At the end of the day, now it's starting to feel like all of our homes are regulated. We're regulated by law. We're regulated by the Constitution or the government or whatever they say goes. And it's just like once everybody steps outside the doors of their home, we walking robots, like trying to configured to the movement of what they have going on outside. So when it comes to the discussion of being a cautious parent versus an overprotective parent, what extent are you willing to go to protect your investment, your kids?
I like that. Because the truth of the matter is
your legacy.
We gotta we have to be their loudest voice. We have to be their loudest influence when they're thinking something. Our voices need to pop up in their heads first, not the people on YouTube, not the radio, not the teacher, not the principal, not anybody else outside mom and dad. All those other components of reinforcement are supposed to be reinforcements to what we teach at home. But society really has access to our kids on a weekly basis, the way our world is set up, more than the parents.
7 hours a day at school.
If you
sometimes aftercare.
Then aftercare,
then sports.
Yeah.
Then there's
somebody else
sports.
More than your couple hours when you wake them up, other than the weekend, if depending on that, because again, sports and you know what I mean. There's so many more voices that have longevity in your child's head when they access the world from the most intelligible state. I'll say 4 or 5 years old to where they we have them at home. They're hearing our voice. If you're blessed and fortunate enough to have your kids that long in your home before you send them to daycare, amen. But those are the odds we're facing. So that's why we scrutinize on the level of protection versus overprotection and influence we give our kids, because this world, they're out there most of the day and a good chunk of their lives. Mm-hmm. We have this again. God bless.
It's a very small scale. So really do your due diligence when you're sending these kids out to these programs, schools,
and everything. Listen to feedback. God forbid.
Read the reviews. Listen, ask people around. If you know people around, look for recommendations, but really do your due diligence, because, I've had some situations from when I was a single parent versus being married. I've had situations with, daycare centers and different things, and a lot of questionable things arose about what I left my child in when I had to go get to the money. And, I feel bad about it, but at the end of the day, I had to hold down a job to support my child, to, do what I needed to do. And I know that there's a lot of people out there. It's like, well, we don't have a choice, and this is what's in my budget, and this, that, and the third. And I understand it, and I get it. Like, legitimately, I really
who do. Goddamn,
I don't just.
Don't just drop your damn kids off at a facility. I don't care if it got 6 stars, 10 stars, and 4 people. Like, that's when the people that
if the government is helping you pay for it and they're on their recommended list, because I've had that situation too. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence. Get recommendations.
Perpetrators are perpetrators. Just like I say, going on the club at night, there's somebody waiting for you to slip. There's somebody waiting to put some of your drink. When you got them karate classes and daycares and dance studio, somebody is waiting to see who keeps dropping their kid off and trusting them so much to the point to where some shit didn't happen and your kids start looking a little different more and more each day, to where, but you're so busy and so trusting because you got the money and you're in a great neighborhood in a great space and just let these people handle your kid any kind of way because your money good, and that's where that unprotection starts to come in, where we start leaving our kids vulnerable to other people's situation.
That's the thing. Always make
those that have the choice.
Make your child's home be a safe space. There's a lot of children out here too that don't even feel like they're in a safe space to even voice what it is that they're going through. It's important. Pay attention to your child's behavior, even if they're not a talker or they're one that shuts down. When you ask questions, they're embarrassed to talk about situations. Just pay attention to their day-to-day behavior. When they don't even know that you're looking, just pay attention. Those are the biggest signs to see that something is going on with your child or something may have happened. I ask my children every day, all day, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going on? I know some of them will be like, I'm okay. And I can see it all over them that they're not okay. But for whatever reason, they don't feel comfortable talking about whatever it is that they want to talk about. And I'm just like, you can talk to me about anything. Just keep reinforcing it. Because even if it doesn't happen, right away, if you continue to reinforce it and keep showing interest, those children are going to come to you. And you need to be the first line of defense, because society is going to take your child up. They're going to teach them whatever they want to teach them. So be the first person to say whatever it is that you need to say. In this household, we have raw conversations. I also advise my children that all children your age are probably not talking about these things, so don't take it out of the household. But there's a level of awareness that I need to instill in my children when they go out into society, because I see what society is showing my children, down to the ads that come on their games when they're just really trying to play an innocent game with their friend. It's ridiculous. And so we need to do our due diligence as parents, be it overprotective, cautious, or whatever anybody else wants to call it. Don't be ashamed about it. If it works for you and it works for your family dynamic, then that's what needs to be done, because we're the only people that can protect them. It's your legacy. It's your investment. Those are your people. They're going to grow up to be parts of society, and you want to make them citizens of the world that's doing good things and not out here just terrorizing everybody and doing the wrong thing. So we just got to do the best that we can, have the conversations. Uncomfortable or not. I've had very many uncomfortable conversations
I'm
with
going to
the
say it
children.
again to reinforce what my underboss just said, man. God forbid something does happen to your kids on whatever level it happens. Please don't be the parents that's so busy or just so in love with life that you don't listen to your kids. Please, again, the odds against us. They out in this world 5 to 7 hours a day at school, aftercare, activities, and we're in such a rush, homework, this, that, and the third, and a kid they might verbally say something to you. Oh, that was just such and such. Oh, they probably were just playing. You know how kids can be. He was just probably, or she was just probably, and that starts, I call it, growing the monster inside of them. That starts the monster that wants to go ahead and decide to talk to the people who they've been around for 5 to 7 hours a day, who they call friend, and get all kinds of diverse / ungodly advice that has nothing to do to resolve their issue. And they get deep. Well, just start hanging out with me. Just start doing this. And then they start getting down these, deep, dark paths.
It just leaves room for them to be manipulated a lot easier, because, they're a target after they're showing their vulnerability that, oh, nobody cares about me or nobody's talking to me. And not to say that that's the case, but it may be their perspective. And also, I'm just going to throw this in there. Check y'all kids' devices. Like,
constantly,
because these children are on here on this Apex and Roblox and Fortnite, and they hooking
and
up
skins,
with each other
before they even talk. The skins and
they
the
doing
dances,
private
the provocative
chat messages.
Yeah,
it's too much, and it's starting as young as 5 years old. As long as they can spell a word out correctly, and sometimes that's not even necessary. Check these devices.
You got the emojis now. You can send the kissy faces and all this stuff. And
make sure your kids not talking about no crazy, inappropriate stuff.
They use the voice to talk. Our kids, they barely spelling, and they can use the voice to text button, and it unfolds.
It's a hassle. I know it. I have 3 young ones who all have some sort of device, whether it be an iPod or a phone, and I got all the parent controls, and it annoys me because I'm constantly getting alerts, approve this, approve this, approve that. But you know what? I'd rather be annoyed than for my children to be out here doing God knows what at whatever time of the day. I've overheard my children over the summer on the weekend still up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, who are you talking to on that phone? And they playing Fortnite and stuff, talking about they playing with their cousin and yada, yada, yada. And that may be fine for some people, and I'm not going to tell you how to run your household. But now we were taught when we were younger that the only thing open after a certain time of the night was them legs. So the conversations may be unsavory after a certain point when they feel like all the parents are asleep. So just do your due diligence and check them devices. I run through them text messages and all the little apps. I need to see what y'all talking about.
Facts.
Don't be ashamed. I know all passcodes.
So again, I would definitely love to hear you guys' feedback on what you guys do as far as protective measures for your kids to deal with this world of society. Are you a free liberal who just kind of lets things, come as they go? Or do you have, strict rules and regulations that you feel will help govern your child, as they go through, their adolescent and teen, young adult stages until adulthood? This world is tricky. It's not perfect. There's really no perfect answer. At the end of the day, it's what works for you. But as I always say, is we should respect one another, love one another to the best of our ability. But the thin line that in the 50 Shades of Grey is when your beliefs and your situation starts to step on my belief and my situation toes. You know what I mean? So
Right.
again, we might have certain reactive measures for our when we run through adversity, and you may have them. But that's where mental health and communication comes into play. A lot of us, oh, my child couldn't have, I never, and we went through that this weekend. My child will never, and shit will happen right up under your noses.
Yeah.
Right up under you. Well, we live here. We've never shown our child. Shit happens. Shit happens. How do you articulate to your children? How do you make that a teachable learning moment? How do you keep protecting them? And how do you go ahead and arm them? Because at the end of the day, if they do have a friend or someone, do you tell them, oh, mind your business, don't say nothing, let that's them, just come home, mind your business. These are all different levels of protection because they're looking at that too. Because if
Mind
God
your
forbid they're
business
in trouble,
be quiet.
yeah, if they're in trouble and
Not
need
good
help,
advice.
God forbid they're around somebody who turns a blind eye and let whatever go down. You know what I mean? So I definitely want you guys' feedback, man. It's a messy world, man. If it ain't messy than me, I appreciate you, my underboss, for coming on and chatting up for one more time. And I'm going public today. Give me a kiss.
Aw.
Mwah. Appreciate y'all.